I'm a 30-year-old company owner descended from a long history of successful businessmen. I always enjoyed a life of luxuries as a child because of my family's income. It did not, however, deter me from being kind and giving to others in need. Adrian, the joy of my life, and I have been married for over 10 years. I built a house for the two of us, where we currently reside. To buy a house with my spouse has always been my desire. Adrian is a cashier at a retail store. Due to his inability to complete education, he was forced to work at low-paying occupations. I normally foot the money and take care of everything else as a result. Our relationship began strangely, but it is now incredibly affectionate. Memories of the first moments of our love affair. We had just finished our final year of college. I've always had a thing for Adrian, who played football for the squad. To let him know I liked him, I would put food and presents in his locker, but every time I did, I felt devastated. I saw him do this twice. Either he gave the food away or he put the presents in the trash. But one day, as I was at the library finishing on my thesis, my closest friend from college, Talia, a law student, came up to me. "Hey, Alina, did you know what happened?" Talia's voice could be heard over the other side of the wing, so the library uncrushed us. What happened? Her eyes betrayed worry and anxiousness. I just saw Adrian dropping his subjects at the registrar. My pupils expanded. Not at all. Adrian is among our class's best pupils. When there is just 1 month left before graduation, there is no way that he would abandon all of his studies. Are you certain? I am, indeed. Recall that I am a student assistant in the office of the registrar. What I found startled me so much. I had a crush on Adrian since my freshman year and had intended to tell him how I felt after I graduated. Now how might I accomplish that? Talia, thanks for the information. I'm sad for him. I spotted him waiting at the fence later that day. I had only had a few encounters with him, all of them unsuccessful. Nevertheless, I chose to take a chance and went up to him. I caught his attention by clearing my throat and then spoke. Hey. I could see the dread in his eyes when we met. Oh, hi, he answered. We had never looked at each other before, so my heart was racing. I've heard that you're leaving school. Is that accurate? He let out a sigh. I suppose word spreads quickly. Indeed, I am. You are the valedictorian of our cohort. The news that you won't graduate has surprised everyone. It's depressing for everyone, even myself. I made sure my final words were quiet enough for him to miss them. I too find it saddening. Though it's not something I requested, I must choose. Due to my father's illness, which is in serious condition, I must stop my studies in order to provide the funds necessary for his treatment. Oh, that breaks my heart to hear. He opened up to me, which made me pleased even though I felt terrible for him. Thus I consoled him. I'm here if you need someone to rely on. All the time. I made the most consoling comment that came to mind. He grinned. He had never smiled at me before, until now. Thank you, Alina. His phone rang right then. There was concern in his tone when he responded. A few moments later, he was crying. How are you doing? Is there anything that I can assist with? With tears in his eyes, he turned to face me after hanging up. We don't have enough money, but my father has to be moved to the intensive care unit. We'll lose him if we can't move him in 2 days. While I listened to him, my heart hurt. I wanted to lighten his load somehow. How much is required? I believe I can provide you a loan of money. He was taken aback by my offer. Alina, it's a considerable amount. I know, that's why I'm offering to help you. He took a while to tell me the amount, then hesitated again. Yes, it was a big amount, but I wanted to support. Okay, I'll pay the bills. His shocked eyes became wider. Alina, are you certain? Many thanks for it. I was thrilled when he gave me an embrace. Days went by, and I kept going to see his dad in the hospital. Adrian began giving me more consideration and care. The majority of my spare time was spent with him in the hospital, either going shopping with him or sitting next to him in the waiting area. After being moved to the ICU, His father eventually made a full recovery 1 month later. I was overjoyed to have contributed to his assistance. Adrian's mother remarked, "Thank you so much for your help, Elena. It was nice to speak with her informally." "No issue, ma'am. As Adrian is one of my friends, I wanted to support him. That is the issue. Mike and I want more than just to be buddies." A beat skipped in my heart. What was the meaning conveyed by her? "I want you to marry my son." That was the last time I gave her comments any credence until Adrian asked me to marry him. It was difficult for me to accept that the man of my dreams was requesting my hand in marriage because we hadn't dated. Without any delay, I answered sure. After 10 years, we now have 2 happy children and a wonderful partnership. My in-laws cohabit with us as well. After attending a business conference, I was taken aback to discover unusual items in the home one day. I inquired of the maids. "Margot purchased it today, ma'am. She said you gave her the order to do so." I couldn't figure it out. "I never told her to do that. Ma'am, she stated that you did it. Each and every week, she does this. That you were unaware of it." "What is it? Is this a fact? Is she hoarding stuff with the money that I have given her?" My mind was blown by the news. The first thing I did was dash into the master bedroom, where I saw my spouse engrossed in a book. This is his typical habit. He either reads or complains about his little salary. This has been his constant routine. Tonight, I hoped to do nothing more than read. "Did your mom buy all the stuff outside?" Mr. Adrian simply nodded. I then let out a sigh. This was always the case with him. Not even a conversation could be had with him. As the evening progressed, I became increasingly fascinated by everything that my mother-in-law had purchased, which included 12 large porcelain vases, 3 air coolers, 4 boxes of food, shoes, purses, and other items that I could not even begin to recall. Is she going to give away all of those goods? After taking a look at them, I determined that the cost may be as high as $100. Because of this, I went with my gut and checked the balance in my bank account. I couldn't believe my eyes when I noticed that my equilibrium was so close to hitting its lowest possible point. Nearly 90% of my money had been gone. You were supposed to use the money to pay bills. I started to feel anxious. It was hard for me to comprehend that she had been carrying out this activity behind my back for a decade without my knowledge. This cannot be true. The moment I realized that they had been using my money to pay off all of their family obligations, my hands began to shake violently. I went through all of the transactions and evaluated them all. I was so overwhelmed by everything that I had just learned that I wanted to quit. In their treatment of me, I was treated like a money machine. After that, I addressed both my husband and my mother-in-law the following day. They were conversing with one another at the coffee table, so I went in their direction where they were sitting. I abruptly banged the table and then displayed my ATM card to them. With a look of bewilderment on her face, my mother-in-law raised her eyebrows and peered at me. She questioned, "What exactly is wrong with you?" Is it not appropriate for me to be the one to pose the question? Just what is the matter with you? In an effort to bring me back to my senses, Adrian stood up. "You need to calm down. Kindly refrain from speaking to my mother in such a manner." I dismissed him with a shrug. "Is it true that you have been utilizing my bank account for the entire time? Kindly respond to me here." Adrian argued, "Don't accuse her," and he was right. I did not pay him any attention. His defense of his mother didn't matter to me since what she did was terrible. "She went too far. Answer me." She yelled at me as she got up. "Indeed, how about that?" The way she answered surprised me. "You had the option to request authorization. When it comes to money, I'm not greedy. I offer all to you. How on earth did you find out my PIN number in the first place?" "Your husband gave it to me." My mouth fell open. "Adrian, has he told her?" I pivoted to face him and met his gaze. "Why?" He answered, "Because my mother deserves everything." This was occurring, and I couldn't believe it. "My name is Julie. I would benefit if you informed me. I would have awarded her what she is worthy of. Isn't that what I'm doing all this time?" I work tirelessly day and night to provide for this family while you work unproductively. My mother-in-law took hold of me and gave me a cheek smack. You have no right to talk to my son that way. I should have your gratitude. It was me that proposed to you for marriage. You'd still be a hopeless romantic if I hadn't persuaded Adrian to get married. And using you to pay our debts is the least you can do as payment for my efforts. She went on. Never be unappreciative. She gave me another smack. I couldn't express how her smacks affected me. I spent the entire thing crying. And I was a fool to have believed them. It was revealed a few weeks later. Adrian and my mother-in-law started abusing me on a regular basis. They showed no gratitude for my financial gifts and treated me like they had nothing. I was made to give over my card by force. Give me your card, or I'll tell everyone that you forced my son to marry you through blackmail. I'm able to ruin you, Alina. Give me your card and stop being so self-centered. I gave her my card out of dread of being mistreated once more. Watching her waste my money on ridiculous items to show off to her friends, proving she was affluent even though she had the worst attitude, broke my heart. The violence and brutality they were exhibiting toward me overwhelmed me. I made the decision to leave the house with my 2 kids at that point. We left covertly at midnight. Being aware of their financial reliance on me, I was certain they would not permit us to depart. Remember how I was their ATM? As a result, when we moved out, I also absolved myself of the need to pay the bills and rent. We made our way to my parents' estate and made ourselves at home. They became frightened when they realized we were gone. Adrian begged us to come home again and over via phone calls and texts, but I never answered. After several months, my mother-in-law made an effort to get in touch with me. Since we had gone, they had not been paying the bills, and I knew that my bank account was becoming low. They didn't know how else to make money. She insulted me and used foul language in a letter that she wrote me. You avaricious woman. Do you believe that your riches has given you security? My life will be ruined. I'll pursue you. The landlord will take possession of the house if you don't return and pay the debts within 3 days. You will regret defying me if you don't heed my directions. Rather than feeling afraid, her message made me giggle. I could feel her frustration and anger. I phoned the landowner right away, Talia, who also happens to be my personal attorney and best friend. I knew I didn't need to worry about the house because of this. I advised her, let's file a lawsuit against them. Yes, Alina, I'll get back to you right away. The court orders were received by my mother-in-law and husband a few days later. Their only option was to go. I noticed my mother-in-law wearing my opulent attire on the day of the trial. She was obviously furiously angry. I revealed their actual motives throughout the trial by providing proof of the financial manipulation and maltreatment I had experienced. In front of everyone, I told with assurance, Your Honor, I have evidence that my mother-in-law and husband used me for financial gain and mistreated me in the process. I produced receipts, bank statements, and other records attesting to illegal payments and withdrawals. My mother-in-law became anxious, seeing her loss. She said, These documents are edited. Everyone, even the judge, chuckled. Mrs. Anderson, these are official documents that have been sealed to ensure their legitimacy. She is not capable of fabricating these reports. You are found guilty, the magistrate said, striking his gavel. The overwhelming weight of the evidence caused the court to find in my favor. As the decision was announced, Adrian and my mother-in-law lowered their heads in shame. Talia came over to talk to me after the trial. I'm incredibly moved by your courage. Justice is not enough for you. As a show of solidarity, I've chosen to give you the house for this reason. I graciously accepted her kind offer while crying. But now when they were in a dire predicament, Adrian and Margot approached me and begged for assistance. Alina, we really apologize. We were blinded by our selfishness and took you for granted. There is nowhere for us to go and no one else for us to turn. I gave them a determined yet sympathetic gaze. I've put up with your abuse and manipulation for years. It's time to put my health first now. It will be up to you to navigate your own path out of the disaster you've made. I was free to move forth from their poisonous influence now that I had regained my power and freedom. After revealing their genuine motivations and guaranteeing a brighter future for myself and my kids, I stood up and asserted my dominance. I discovered how to value who I am and find contentment in my newly acquired independence.